All right, today we're diving into something wild, a story that was literally buried, burned, and forbidden. We're talking about a secret history of Japan, one that's been hidden for thousands of years in the forests of Mount Fuji.
I mean, what if everything you think you know about Japan's ancient past is just a cover story? What if all those tales of emperors and samurai were crafted to hide a much, much older truth?
You know how they say history is written by the victors, right? Well, this is the perfect example. Deep in the shadows of Japan's most secret mountain, there's a totally different story whispering from the past. And it's a story someone tried really hard to make sure you never heard.
Okay, so to get to the bottom of this, we've got to go way, way back. We're talking thousands of years before the first emperors even existed, to a civilization that's really the key to this whole mystery.
So it all kicks off with Japan's earliest major culture, the Jōmon people. And these guys were incredible. They lived for an astonishing 10,000 years in peace. Think about that, 10,000 years with no evidence of war. Their gods weren't in some fancy temples. They were in the trees, the rivers, the mountains. But then, catastrophe struck. About 3,000 years ago, a huge climate shift happened, and their population just collapsed. They were pushed right to the edge of extinction.
And right when it looked like it was all over for the Jōmon, a new people arrived. They were the Dravidians, an ancient group fleeing their own war-torn world over by the Himalayas. And get this, they didn't come to conquer. They came with new knowledge and just integrated peacefully. They joined the Jōmon. But this new alliance, it was about to face a brand new threat, one rising from across the sea. Okay, this brings us to a huge turning point around 2,000 years ago, and it all comes down to two men who are about to change everything. So on one side, you've got China's very first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. We're talking a brutal tyrant, completely obsessed with control. He wanted to control what people thought, so he started burying shamans alive and burning any books of philosophy he could find. He wanted to erase any belief system that wasn't his. And on the other side, his hostage, a man named Zufu. And Zufu just happens to be a shaman prince, a master of the exact kind of ancient knowledge the emperor was trying to wipe out.
Now, this is where it gets really good. Zufu's response is just brilliant. He doesn't fight back with swords. He uses his mind. He spins this tale for the power-hungry emperor about a mythical medicine for eternal life, hidden away in the Eastern Isles. And of course, the emperor, blinded by his own ambition, totally falls for it. He gives Zufu everything he asks for, 3,000 young men and women, the best artisans in the whole country. The catch? Zufu had zero intention of ever coming back. He sailed away not as a refugee, but as a liberator on a mission to save all that knowledge from being destroyed.
So, when Shifu and his crew finally land in Japan, they don't find some kingdom they need to fight. Nope. They find something completely different. A society built on principles that his own war-torn world had forgotten centuries ago. Turns out, the Japan he found was a matriarchy. Here's why. The men were the hunters, and they'd often go on these dangerous nighttime hunts in the mountains. A lot of them, well, they didn't come back. This led to a population that was mostly women, so naturally, women became the leaders. They were the visionaries, the heart of the villages. It was the total opposite of the male-dominated patriarchal empires back on the mainland. And this society was built on just incredible acceptance. They had the sacred song, the Miyama Anthem, and they wouldn't just sing it to their own gods. They'd sing it to the gods of any foreigners who showed up on their shores. Can you imagine that? Instead of, "Who are you? Get out," it was, "Your God is beautiful. Let's worship together." Just amazing. Zufu was just blown away by this spirit of harmony. He knew he had to protect it. He also knew the emperor back home was greedy and would eventually come looking. So, to secure Japan's future, he gave them a secret weapon, his family's greatest secret, the art of making silk. And you have to understand, back then, the best silk was worth more than gold. It was a massive economic advantage. So the women who mastered this craft, they got a special name, the Hirume, which means girls of the light. And they weren't just craft people. With their existing spiritual authority, plus control over this insane new wealth, they became the queens of a new Fuji dynasty. See, Zufu didn't conquer, he united. He brought princesses from all over Japan together to form a queendom based on alliance, not on war. But Zufu was smart.
He knew this peaceful world was fragile. He knew that powerful people love to rewrite history to suit themselves. So he created the perfect failsafe. A message, a history that could never be burned, never be erased.
He hid this message in a text that would become super controversial, the Fuji ancient document. It was so controversial, in fact, that the later imperial government banned it. Now, this document talked about 7 sacred shrines. But here's the mystery. For centuries, researchers looked for these shrines and found nothing. They just figured they were lost to time.
But here's the twist, and it's a good one. They were looking in the wrong place. Or more accurately, they were looking for the wrong thing. They were expecting to find temples, big buildings that would eventually just crumble into dust.
Shifu's shrines were something way, way more permanent. They were ancient stone monuments, markers that had already been standing for thousands of years, basically hidden in plain sight. And this is the incredible part. When you plot the locations of these 7 stone monuments on a map, they form a perfect, unmistakable replica of the Big Dipper constellation.
So that forbidden document, it wasn't just a history book. It was a map. The names of the places and the gods, that was the key. And the stars themselves, that was the code. It's an absolutely perfect system for preserving truth, an unchangeable record that he literally wrote into the landscape of Japan itself. You can't burn the ground, you can't erase the stars.
So, you have to be wondering what happened to this secret queendom? Why did this incredible history have to be hidden away so completely? Well, centuries later, the inevitable happened. The warrior-led kingdoms from the mainland finally brought their patriarchal, top-down style of rule to Japan. And the first thing they did, they wrote a new official history, one that completely erased the goddess queens and instead created this story of an unbroken line of male emperors, all descending from the gods.
And yet, the truth was never completely destroyed. It was just hidden, preserved in symbols and rituals, deep inside Shinto traditions. For example, the turtle, which was the symbol of the ancient Fuji queens, is still used today in sacred ceremonies to choose the highest-ranking priestesses. It's this quiet little echo of a time when women were the rulers.
It really makes you stop and think, right? What even is history? Is it just what's written down in books, something that can be changed or burned by whoever's in power? Or is it something deeper, something encoded in the land and in the stars, just waiting for someone to come along and read it? Because maybe the greatest truths aren't sitting in some dusty archive. Maybe they're written in the stars. You just have to know where to look.